You have really pretty eyes.
No one's told me I've got pretty eyes over a dead body, and I'm not sure this is a gap in my professional career or not. We are a little more focused on what we're doing. Hi, I'm Dr. Richard Shepherd. I'm one of Britain's top forensic pathologists, and I'm here to break down some autopsy clips from films and TV shows. I've been a forensic pathologist since 1987. I've done about 23,000 post-mortem examinations. So I've got quite a lot of experience in natural deaths, in unnatural deaths, in murders, in homicides, in accidents. So I've seen autopsies in every possible way, both in the United Kingdom and abroad. Always nice to see how other people portray it, even if they don't quite get it exactly right.
Donnie Compson, age 39.
Okay, so we've got some gloves, we've got people doing forensic things like taking hair samples and clipping his toenails, so this is a good start. We have a pathologist wearing scrubs and an apron, and then we have this extraneous doctor in the mortuary not wearing any protective materials at all.
Can we cut to the money shot?
Sorry. And then suddenly he produces a saw. So he's in the mortuary, he's not wearing any gloves, he's not wearing anything of any sort of protective thing, and he's going to wave this bit of equipment around. And what was the phrase, let's cut to the money shot, which is not really what we pathologists like to consider. We like to take things slowly and in a careful progression rather than rush to the thing we think is most likely.
It's his heart. So let's look at his heart.
It is so easy to consider just because someone has died and their heart has stopped that the problem lies in the heart. More often than not, it doesn't lie primarily in the heart. And this is why we have a slow and methodical process rather than just jump in and look at the heart. If we could just look at the heart, then the post-mortem process would be an awful lot quicker.
Nice Y incision. You can't perform an autopsy without a medical license.
Good point. You know, we need to be qualified in our own specialties. And here he is, just about to perform an autopsy. Physically, I'm sure he could do it, but he doesn't have a license. And it's the sort of thing in the UK that you'd find yourself very quickly out on the streets if you started to do.
Opening post-mortem incision, beginning at the midline of the sternum.
Okay. So they are performing this examination using an electric saw, which is not how it's done. We do something more subtle. We use a scalpel, just like the surgeons use for making those incisions. Using a saw tends to be quite damaging and destructive to skin tissue, which is why we don't use it.
That's odd. Almost looks like he's bleeding.
Okay, so they've cut a long incision in this guy's chest wall and blood is leaking from it. Bodies after death still have blood within them, they're not drained of blood, and so the incisions actually do bleed or can bleed. The worry clearly here is whether or not this body is actually dead. About once every 5 years there are reports in the newspapers that people have been put into a mortuary fridge while still alive. Often they are suffering from hypothermia or they've taken a drug overdose. And generally speaking, the doctor or the paramedic that should have certified them dead hasn't fulfilled the correct protocols. And so this has slipped through. The chances of a body getting onto the mortuary table still alive are so phenomenally small. It usually takes several hours or even days from the process of being certified dead to actually arriving on the mortuary table. So extremely, extremely unlikely. Well, I have to say that would be my response as well, if the body made any noise at all. We were in quite an interesting saga here of clearly they've made a terrible mistake, this person's died and he's died from his heart and there's real problems, and then the script has gone now completely off-piste and we've moved into the realms of rather depressing fantasy. A 3.
He's been dead a long time, and I can tell you it was not poison. Oh, man.
Immediate thoughts here. Once again, we've got a pathologist, we've got a really good post-mortem room, and then we have 2 policemen walking through this room, completely destroying any health and safety rules, any worries about infection, but also beginning to destroy all the forensic evidence, or the sanctity of the forensic evidence.
He's got lines of distension across the duodenum.
Even allowing for American pronunciation, I'm not sure duodenum is the correct pronunciation of duodenum. I also just noticed that in the corner of the room, they've got a large cylinder of liquid nitrogen, which should be in its own special place, because were it to leak, it would be likely to freeze them to death or kill them. The body is actually quite good in the sense that, once again, these makeup artists are excellent at reproducing these things. The bit that I don't like is the poor quality of the suturing. When a post-mortem is performed, of course, we have to open the body. When the post-mortem is complete, those incisions have to be sewn up, they have to be reconstructed. And that's done by the mortuary staff, and they're really proud of the quality of their work. They're really proud of making those sutures look neat and tidy, so that if the family see them, as sometimes they do, then it's not something that stands out and looks like a disfiguring act. In this case, it's exactly the opposite. It's done clearly for effect, but it's not accurate.
What about these bruises up here?
No, I haven't figured that out yet.
Well, it's good to see a pathologist admitting that he doesn't know everything all of the time, because pathologists are often portrayed as being all-knowing, all-seeing and all-understanding. So it's nice to have a little bit of doubt. It was okay. 1 or 2 minor things about the room that I didn't like. The liquid nitrogen's a huge risk and certainly wouldn't have been there. The makeup on the body was fantastic, apart from the stitching, and I particularly liked the fact that the pathologist wasn't portrayed as all-seeing and all-knowing. Score? I'd give that, I think, probably an 8.
Gentlemen, you are about to observe your first autopsy. It is not unusual for some men.
First off, what a fantastic set. Brilliant. I love the bottles in the background. I also like the tools on the wall, none of which are correct, but they fulfill the fantasy of drills and knives and things, and I say bottles with things in them and coloured liquids. The students are interesting too, but we shall see. They're clearly set some time ago with just the feet of the corpse this moment visible.
We make an incision from the groin to the upper chest cavity. There.
It does take me back to my first week at medical school. This is so often portrayed in these humorous medical dramas. But in reality, going into that dissection room to see the bodies, it was a tremendous mixture of excitement, anxiety, tension, fear, all of those things. But I don't remember in the time I was doing dissection during my first year and a half at university, anyone at any time fainting. And I certainly don't remember it being done in such a way as to try and make people faint. It's very funny. The humour is somewhat separate from real life.
Here, pass it along. Don't worry, there's plenty to go.
Not a hint of blood, despite all this pulling and tugging. The intestines were quite interesting. Not bad, but actually not accurate either. And you know, as everyone considers them to be the smelliest part of the post-mortem, I can see why they went there. And now we can see behind on the wall this fantastic set of woodworking tools that have absolutely nothing to do with a mortuary or anything like that. So wonderfully funny, really well staged, but not real.
First, we crack open the skull.
Looking at the brain does not involve a huge hammer But once again, I'm conscious we are down humour. This is exaggeration. It's wonderfully funny. Okay, the background is really good, but in a humorous way. I mean, that's the genre of the film. The way the medical students are portrayed in their coats is good. The script is funny. All in all, it was a very humorous thing, and it was well done. I give that a 7.
Yeah, that's right. West Virginia, Elk River.
Okay, well, 2 seconds in, the first thing is they're in a mortuary space and none of them are wearing any sort of protective clothing. The minimum people would put on would be a gown, even if they didn't get dressed up fully in scrubs and sterile equipment.
Stand by for transmission.
He's putting something underneath his nose. This, sadly, is a very common feature in the police officer's mind, that if they put something sweet-smelling under their nose, it will somehow drown out the smell of the autopsy. Unfortunately, they're entirely wrong.
Star-shaped contact entrance wound over the sternum.
My understanding is that Starling is a police officer. She's moving into the role of the forensic pathologist. She's describing wounds and injuries, and that really is not her role, even as a star FBI agent. On the other hand, the makeup showing really quite well executed signs of decomposition, with leaves and water and the skin beginning to become separated from the body. So that the makeup is fantastic. And dental identification isn't done with a simple photograph.
Oh, Jack.
So Starling is doing one good thing here. She's putting some fluid on this pod, this bug, this cocoon that she's found, and that's formalin, which is what we would do. We would actually fix it and preserve it in that way. So that's good, and we've now moved on to the body lying face down. Once again, the makeup artist has done a brilliant job in making this look realistic, but they're going far out of their remit in terms of examining the body, in looking at it, in taking samples. These samples would just never stand up in a court of law. The autopsy clip from Silence of the Lambs is good in its area, in the room and in the makeup, but in the process it misses so many of the hoops that we have to go through in real life in order to get good evidence to give in court. On a scale of 1 to 10, allowing for the really good makeup artist, I'd give it a 5. Okay, first off, I mean, great mortuary scene, really sort of portrays how it looks, with several tables and lights and weighing scales. Pathologist is actually wearing protective clothing, which is great.
I did a full laparotomy. I started with the lesser curve.
Okay, a laparotomy is a great word, sounds really technical, but it's a surgical technical word. A laparotomy is an operation in life on your abdomen. It's not a word we use for an autopsy. And now they're back into the mortuary. No protective equipment, no gloves, nothing at all.
That's your cat?
Yes, it is now. It came in with the body.
So she's put a gown on, that's great. Obviously the set was a bit tight for finance. They seem to only have 1 glove each rather than 2. And a cat in the mortuary. Yeah, I mean, twee, but no, it's not going to happen.
Dive right in. I'm sure he won't mind. You have really pretty eyes.
No one's told me I've got pretty eyes over a dead body, and I'm not sure this is a gap in my professional career or not. We are a little more focused on what we're doing.
Notice anything strange? Stomach, liver, lungs?
Nope, all fine.
Doctor, they're all missing.
Okay, so, we don't get the police to actually feel and do. We will demonstrate changes, we'll demonstrate injuries, we can show them, and there's always a photographer there to document that as well. So it's all there. But I do notice that when he took his hand out of the abdomen, it didn't have any blood on it. So once again, that would have added a little bit of realism. Okay, right, this robotic body has now begun to unpack itself, which is tremendously exciting drama, but I'm very pleased to say it's never ever happened to me, and I think I would be the first one out the door. Great drama, great movie, but reality, set's good. The dialogue is peppered with words probably not in the correct order, and a few other things don't quite fit together, but hey, this is a autopsy apparently of an alien, so it's not something I've ever been involved with, so difficult to talk about the reality. But for the background, I don't know, 5? The commonest mistake is the one that is entirely understandable. When you've got stars appearing in TVs or film, they don't want to be covered head to foot in protective equipment. They need to be seen, obviously. So that is the classic mistake in almost every situation in an autopsy. Many of them surprise me, but in many different ways. I like the medical student one, it appeals to my sense of humour. Silence of the Lambs, that's interesting, because when they're taking that chrysalis out of the back of the throat, that's interesting. But they're all great, they're all good stories, but for properly sensible reasons, they don't really fit with reality, because reality is much slower, is much more ponderous, and we wear so much more equipment that would hide our faces. Thanks for watching. You can get my new book, The 7 Ages of Death, by clicking below in the description. And don't forget to click here to subscribe to Penguin for more videos like this.